Welcome to my channel. Subscribe to hear the latest story.
My mom claimed she needed a heart surgery and stole $35,000 from my saving account. A week later, she was touring Europe with my sister. Everyone told me to forgive her. I didn't. I sued her and watched her cry in front of the judge. Hey Reddit, I grew up in a house where the favorite child title wasn't a mystery. It was printed on Brianna's forehead. So I minded my business, built my own life, and kept my distance. But apparently letting me be happy was too much for them. Before things went completely off the rails, let me take you back to how all this actually started. My name's Jake. I'm in my early 30s, work in operations for a mid-sized company, and fix up houses on the side. Nothing flashy. I'm writing this because the last stunt my family pulled finally killed any hope that things would ever make sense with them. My parents, Tom and Nadine, stayed together my whole life. No divorce, no explosive fights. From the outside, we looked normal. Inside, the rules depended on who you were. If you were me, you learned early that effort didn't equal attention. If you were my sister Brianna, you learned that the world would bend before she had to. Nadine treated Brianna like a trophy. Every little thing she did got applause. I brought home a school award once and got, "Don't get cocky." That was the rhythm. Brianna's smallest efforts earned cheers. Mine earned critiques. Holidays made it obvious. Brianna got balloon arches, themes, and matching outfits. My birthdays were a store-bought cake and a make-a-wish. If Brianna didn't like a gift, Nadine rushed to exchange it. If I didn't like mine, I was told to be grateful. Discipline followed the same script. Brianna lied? She's sensitive. Broke something? She's tired. I forgot a chore? What's wrong with you? Tom tried to step in sometimes, but always quietly, like he was sneaking help past Nadine. Attention was worse. Brianna's tears stopped the house. Mine didn't even slow it down. I once cut my hand bad enough for stitches. Nadine said, "You're fine." Tom drove me to urgent care while she complained about the gas. Extended family didn't help. Aunt Greta appeared anytime Nadine hinted at free food or fun. Greta and Nadine acted like Brianna's personal fan club. Noor, Greta's daughter, tagged along as Brianna's built-in audience. Aunt Yolanda pushed boundaries nonstop. If Brianna got something nice, she'd look at me and go, "You don't mind sharing, right?" The answer was always decided before I spoke. Marla, Nadine's best friend, was the calm gaslighter type. Anytime I called out the favoritism, she'd say, "You're reading too much into it," or "Maybe you're too sensitive," said in that slow, steady voice that makes you second-guess yourself. Then there was Kira, my cousin, the family gossip machine. She collected tension like souvenirs and retold it later with a grin, like our lives were her favorite show. The moment that really locked things in happened when I was about 10. I got up for water one night and heard Nadine talking to Greta in the hallway. She said plain as day, "When Jake gets older, he'll help with Brianna. Boys are supposed to take care of family. He'll be our stability." Like I wasn't a kid in the next room, like I was a future paycheck. I just stood there, listening. Nadine talked about Brianna's future like it was sacred. She talked about mine like it was her backup plan. No mention of what I wanted or who I was. Just what I'd be good for. I didn't cry. Didn't confront anyone. I just stored it away. That's how I handled things even back then. Quiet ledger in my head, noting who meant what and who I could actually count on. That was the night I understood the roles were locked in. Brianna got the spotlight, I got the scraps. And expecting fairness from them was just wasted energy. So I stopped expecting it. The turning point for my teenage years came when Brianna got her first part-time job at a clothing store in town. Nadine bragged about it for a week straight, telling relatives how mature Brianna was. Even Aunt Yolanda said, "See? She's growing up so fast." Like Brianna was the one carrying the family. The job lasted 3 weeks before everything blew up. I came home from school one afternoon and found Nadine pacing the kitchen with her phone in her hand. Brianna was sitting at the table, mascara smudged, breathing hard like she had survived something tragic. When Nadine saw me, she gave me that warning stare she saved for moments she didn't want me messing up. The manager from Brianna's store had called. Brianna had been caught stealing. Not just one thing. Several items shoved into her bag over multiple shifts. Security had footage. They were letting her go quietly, only because Tom had been friendly with the owner years back. Nadine tried to soften it when she explained it to me. Like the problem was the world being too harsh. "She made a mistake," she said. "She's under a lot of pressure. You don't understand how sensitive she is." Brianna immediately threw herself into a meltdown, like it was a performance she had practiced. Full shaking, hands over her face, Loud gasps. All of it. She said she felt attacked and misunderstood, and Nadine acted like she was watching her child collapse under the weight of the universe. Tom tried to get a word in, but Nadine shut him down fast. Tom, don't raise your voice. She's fragile. He hadn't raised his voice. Within minutes, the whole house atmosphere shifted. Lights dimmed, voices dropped. Everyone moved carefully, like Brianna's emotions were some injured animal we couldn't disturb. It was ridiculous. I waited until Brianna took another dramatic breath, and Nadine said, for the third time, "We can't pressure her right now." That's when I said it. Calm, not rude, just factual. She stole. Nobody's pressuring her. We're just not pretending she didn't. The room went still. Brianna froze mid-sob, like she wasn't expecting anyone to break the script. Nadine turned on me immediately. Not confused, angry, like I had crossed some sacred line. "Jake, how can you say that right now?" she snapped. "She's down. She needs support, not cruelty." Cruelty. That was the word she used. Not for the stealing, not for the store losing money, not for Brianna lying about it, for me pointing out reality. Aunt Yolanda showed up 20 minutes later, because of course Brianna texted her. She walked in with a bag of snacks to comfort poor Brianna and shot me a look like I was the villain of the story. "Jake, sometimes you need to soften your heart," she said. "You don't always have to be so rigid." She's hurting. Rigid. Right. The person who didn't steal was the problem. Marla called Nadine that evening. I heard the whole conversation from the hallway. Marla used that slow, soothing tone she always had. "Some kids are just sensitive," she said. "Jake probably doesn't understand emotional pressure. Maybe he misread things." Kira found out within hours, because gossip traveled through her faster than news channels. She called me and acted fake sympathetic, but she was really fishing for details so she could repeat them to everyone else with new dramatic seasoning. The whole family went into recovery mode for Brianna. Nadine told Tom and me to keep things peaceful and avoid stressful energy. That meant Brianna didn't have to do chores, clean her room, or answer for the job issue. She got a week off life because she cried loud enough. I didn't get loud. I just adjusted. I started saying no more often. If Nadine asked me to clean up after Brianna, I said, "She's old enough," and walked away. If Brianna demanded I explain something for school or cover for her, I said, "Not my job," and kept moving. If anyone tried to tell me Brianna was going through something, I asked, a meltdown or accountability, and left the conversation there. Every time I didn't play along, Nadine treated it like rebellion. Yolanda treated it like disrespect. Marla treated it like a misunderstanding. Kira treated it like new content for her gossip folder. But for the first time, I didn't bend. That was the year I stopped carrying Brianna's consequences. If she burned a bridge, she could stand in the smoke herself. Tom was the one person in the house who treated me like an actual son, not a spare part. He wasn't loud about it. He didn't give big speeches or dramatic moments. He just showed up in the ways that counted. Most days after school, he'd be in the garage working on something. His old toolbox, a loose hinge, a piece of furniture someone had dropped off. I'd help him without needing an invitation. We didn't make it sentimental. He'd hand me a tool, I'd hand it back, and we'd get the job done. Those were the quiet hours where I could breathe without feeling judged. Sometimes he'd take me for drives when Nadine was on one of her Brianna-centered missions. Nothing fancy, just going to pick up supplies or dropping off donations. He'd check in without digging. "School all right? You good?" I'd answer, and he'd nod, like that was enough. No pressure, no comparing me to my sister, no expectations to carry someone else's emotions. He saw the favoritism. He saw how Nadine treated Brianna like some delicate collectible and treated me like a durable tool meant to survive anything. He never said it out loud, but he didn't pretend everything was equal either. When Nadine had one of her "don't upset Brianna" days, Tom would find me later and say something like, "Don't take it out on yourself." That was his version of pushing back. And when it mattered, he backed me. If Brianna lied about me, Tom didn't default to believing her. If I said something happened, he trusted me enough not to assume the worst. That alone was something Nadine never gave me. Meanwhile, Brianna's entitlement just kept growing. Every time she got away with something, it rewired her. She started expecting special treatment everywhere, not just at home. If a teacher gave her a bad grade, it was unfair. If a friend didn't invite her somewhere, it was jealousy. If a rule applied to her, it was too harsh. Nadine fed it every step of the way, telling her the world was supposed to adjust for her feelings. That's around the time Phil started popping up at family events more often. Phil wasn't close to Tom, despite how much he tried to act like he was. He was one of those guys who hovered around the edge of the family, friend of a friend, neighbor of a cousin, Never really invited, but always there. Phil had a habit of picking the worst moment to give some balanced take nobody asked for. If Nadine blew up on me for something Brianna did, Phil would lean in with, well, maybe both sides could communicate better. And if Brianna pulled one of her dramatic stunts, he'd say, she's under pressure. Let's understand her perspective. It didn't matter what the situation was. Phil defended the most chaotic person in the room like it was a sport. One afternoon, Brianna had snapped at Nadine for not buying her a new jacket on the spot. Nadine apologized to her, which made zero sense. Tom and I were in the living room when Phil wandered over like he was joining a campfire chat. You know, Phil said, it's tough being young. Emotions run high. Maybe Jake should try being more patient with her. She's going through a lot. I didn't even bother looking at him. Phil, stop talking. He laughed like I was joking. No, I'm serious. These things aren't black and white. I cut him off. You don't know anything about this house, so stop acting like you do. He shut up finally. Tom didn't comment, but he gave me a small nod on the way to the kitchen. That was Tom speak for, you handled that right. Or, the older I got, the more I stopped trying to earn Nadine's approval. I focused on school, work, learning skills, anything that wasn't tied to her mood. I picked up extra classes, helped Tom with repairs, and figured things out myself. The more independent I became, the easier it was to let Nadine's nonsense roll off. Brianna, on the other hand, leaned harder into the idea that she was owed something by everyone. If I got an accomplishment, Nadine downplayed it. If Brianna got the smallest achievement, Nadine told the whole family group chat. It didn't annoy me anymore. It just confirmed what I already knew. By the time senior year rolled around, I had already decided I wasn't sticking around in that house any longer than necessary. I didn't argue about it. I didn't announce it. I just made my plans, earned my scholarships, and packed my life quietly. Tom helped me load the car. Nadine hovered around Brianna like always. Brianna didn't even look up from her phone when I said I was heading out. No surprise there. I hugged Tom. He said, go build something good. And that was it. Simple, solid. As I drove off, I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry. I just felt clear. I knew exactly who Nadine and Brianna were, and who I wasn't going to be for them ever again. By the time I hit my late 20s, my life looked nothing like the one Nadine expected for me. I had a stable job in operations, a strict routine, and a few rental properties I fixed up myself. That DIY grind was something I'd picked up from Tom. Build it, repair it, maintain it, earn it. It kept me focused and sane. Meanwhile, Brianna was still drifting from one idea to the next. Every month she had a new plan, none of which lasted longer than it took her to lose interest. Nadine hovered behind her like a bodyguard, smoothing over every consequence. If Brianna quit a job, Nadine called the manager unprofessional. If Brianna missed payments, Nadine blamed the company for not supporting young women. It was always someone else's fault. The cosign trap happened on a Tuesday afternoon. I was at my place replacing a light fixture when Nadine and Brianna showed up unannounced. They walked in like it was a scheduled meeting. Brianna stood behind Nadine, arms crossed, already annoyed. Nadine held a folder in her hand. We need you to sign something quickly, she said, like she was asking me to hand her a screwdriver. She opened the folder and slid papers across my counter. Just co-sign so she gets approved. I didn't touch the papers. Approved for what? A new car, Nadine said. She needs reliable transportation. This will help her career. Brianna chimed in. It's not even a big deal. I'll handle the payments. She wouldn't. I knew it. Nadine knew it. Everyone with eyes knew it. The car was expensive, way out of her budget. The kind of thing someone buys for the image, not the need. It was obvious Brianna wanted it because her friend got one recently. I pushed the papers back across the counter. No. Nadine blinked like she didn't hear me. Jake, don't start. She needs this. No, I repeated. Calm. Final. Brianna's mouth dropped open. Are you serious? You're really doing this right now? Nadine raised her voice immediately. She's trying to move forward in life. You, of all people, should support that. I'm not tying myself to a loan she can't afford, I said. You want her to have a car? Buy one within her budget. The volume in the room jumped fast. They acted like I had personally blocked her from breathing. Nadine said I was killing her momentum. Brianna said I was jealous. Nadine tossed out her favorite line. Family lifts each other up. I didn't move. I didn't raise my voice. I just waited for them to run out of steam. They eventually stormed out, slamming the door like I'd betrayed them on a national level. A month later, Tom got sick. It came fast. 1 week he was fine. The next, he was in the hospital, unable to catch his breath. The diagnosis hit like concrete. Something severe. Late stage, not a lot of time. I was there for the hard parts because that's what you do for the person who actually raised you. I sat with him during treatments. I talked with his doctors. I helped him eat on the days he couldn't manage it. I watched his energy shrink week by week. Nadine and Brianna showed up when it made them look good. Perfect timing. Right before visiting hours ended, right before a nurse walked by, right when other relatives might be arriving. Brianna brought cameras more than she brought comfort. Nadine hovered near the doorway like she was checking attendance. Tom passed on a quiet morning. I was there. Nadine wasn't. Brianna wasn't. They arrived later and acted shocked, like his timing had personally offended them. The funeral home meeting was where Nadine tried to rewrite history in real time. She walked in with a binder and a voice full of authority, talking like she had carried Tom through every part of his illness. She used the phrase, "our family moment," at least 3 times before we sat down. She tried taking control of the entire process. Music, speakers, order of events. She even pushed for Brianna to speak at the service. She was so close with him, Nadine said. Brianna stared at her phone the whole sentence. The funeral director turned to me because Tom had left instructions naming me as his point of contact. Nadine noticed and immediately tried to wedge herself in. Jake, you should include your sister in everything. This is about unity. I leaned back in my chair. Nadine, Brianna wasn't here for him. She barely visited. She's not giving a speech. Nadine stiffened. Are you questioning her grief? I'm stating the truth, I said. We're not performing anything for the room. She looked stunned, then offended, then overwhelmed. Her usual cycle. She asked the funeral director to consider the whole family's feelings, but he kept looking at the paperwork. My name, my authority, Tom's choice. I shut it down clean. Every attempt she made to control something, I blocked with one sentence. No yelling, no back and forth, just clarity. A few weeks later, the inheritance settled. Tom left everything to me. His accounts, his small savings, the things he owned outright. Nadine acted supportive for 2 days, like she respected Tom's wishes. Brianna played polite for maybe 10 minutes, but the tone shifted fast. The way they talked, the way they asked questions, the way Brianna kept circling around topics like stability and future plans. I'd known them long enough to recognize the start of a pattern. They weren't grieving anymore. They were circling. Tom set up a savings account for me when I was a kid. It was a custodial account in my name under our state's UTMA, with Nadine listed as the custodian. Legally, the money was mine. She just had transaction authority until I was of age. We never rushed the retitling while Tom was alive, because there was no reason to. After he died, the bank still showed her as custodian on the paperwork, which meant getting it retitled to me required slow retitling forms and ID verification. Exactly the kind of process Nadine could drag out. I never touched it because I didn't need to. Scholarships and work paid my way, and Tom always said, leave it for when it actually matters. Nadine never went near it while he was alive. Not out of respect, just out of fear of Tom's eyebrows when she tried something shady. After he died, I should have known that account would start looking like a vending machine to her. But before she hit it, she did the warm-up rounds. She tried a couple small health scares, the same pattern she'd been testing before. One morning, she claimed her chest felt compressed. I told her, give me the clinic info. I'll pay them directly. She suddenly felt great. Another day it was dizziness. Same answer from me. Same miraculous recovery. I thought she was bored, not sick. Then she decided to make it big. I was at one of my rentals replacing a damaged step when Brianna called sounding like she was auditioning for a disaster movie. Jake, Mom collapsed. She won't get up. Please answer. I heard movement, crying, the echo of a room with too many people in it. Then a voice in the background, deep, calm, and official enough to make me stop what I was doing. Ma'am, step back. Let her breathe. Brianna put the phone on speaker. Another voice said, possible cardiac event. We're transporting her now. Okay, that'll get your attention, even if you don't trust the people involved. I headed to the hospital. When I got there, Nadine was in a bed with monitors attached, looking pale enough to convince someone who wasn't used to her performances. A nurse explained they'd done preliminary tests, but she needed follow-up with a cardiology specialist out of state in Arizona, someone with immediate openings for evaluation. Everything looked real enough. Actual staff, actual equipment, actual hospital. Later that night, Nadine emailed me a treatment estimate. I opened it expecting her usual amateur hour scams. Instead, it looked like something a real hospital billing department would send. Hospital letterhead cardiology department listed procedure codes, a digital signature, a patient coordinator contact. It was polished enough that you'd need to know medical coding to spot flaws. Most people wouldn't. And I wasn't going to accuse a hospital of lying based on a gut feeling. The total estimate, $70,000. I didn't offer her a dime. I gave her the same line I always did. Give me their billing department. I'll pay them directly. She hesitated, claimed she didn't want to bother them, which is a strange thing to say when your heart is supposedly malfunctioning. I repeated myself. She promised she'd look into it tomorrow. That was the end of that conversation. The next morning, Nadine and Brianna announced they were flying out for a month-long cardiac recovery program in Arizona. According to them, the specialist needed extended monitoring and lifestyle evaluation. Sure, sounds exactly like something a cardiologist would prescribe to a woman whose idea of exercise is arguing with customer service. I didn't hear from them for a week except short texts. Landing soon, settling in, test tomorrow, nothing concrete. That didn't raise alarms. Being vague is their default setting. Then Lily, my friend who's known Nadine's tricks for years, sent me screenshots. It was Brianna, at the Eiffel Tower, full pose, full makeup, big smile, zero signs of medical stress, time-stamped from that morning. I thought it was a joke. Then Lily sent another. Aunt Greta on a rooftop bar in Barcelona. Then Noor shopping in Milan, twirling in a new outfit. Then Brianna again, this time in Spain, drink in hand, laughing like she'd just won the lottery. Lily wrote, "Thought your mom was in Arizona?" Yeah, that was the story. I opened the mobile banking app to check something unrelated and noticed a drop in my childhood savings account balance. A big drop, 35,000 gone, then another smaller withdrawal, all labeled authorized by account owner, which legally meant Nadine. She still had live custodian authority on the account profile, even though the funds were legally mine. Changing the titling wasn't a click. The bank wanted estate documentation and a formal retitling, which Nadine could stall as long as she stayed listed as custodian. Everything clicked into place. The collapse, the specialist, the polished bill, the sudden urgency, the vague texts, the 1-month recovery, the Europe itinerary disguised as medical care. She didn't wait for my approval. She didn't need it. She just waited for the moment Tom wasn't there to block her and drained a big chunk of the account like she was grabbing snacks before a road trip. 3 days later, Nadine emailed another bill. This one looked legitimate too, until you actually read it. One tell, the 10-digit national provider identifier on the letterhead is registered to a dermatologist in another state, not a cardiologist. Professional forgery, amateur planning. Instead, I sat down, logged into everything, and began documenting. Not with dramatic flair, just the same way I track expenses for a renovation. Dates, names, screenshots, transfers, emails. It was a heist, and now it was traceable. I didn't waste time. After seeing the Europe photos and the withdrawals from the childhood account, I called Nadine. No warm-up, no small talk. Why did you take money from the savings account? I asked. Silence. Then a long inhale like she was preparing a monologue. You authorized it, she said, voice already wobbling like she wanted to cry her way through the lie. You agreed to help with my treatment. Brianna heard you. Brianna shouted from somewhere nearby. Yeah, you said you'd cover it. He's twisting things now. Of course. The chorus. I never authorized anything, I said. I told you I'd pay the hospital directly. Nadine sped up. That's her tell, lying faster than her brain can keep up. Well, that's what you meant. You told us to take care of it however we needed. And the specialist? There was no specialist, I cut in. You were at the Eiffel Tower. She choked on her response. We needed a break. The stress, the tests. You don't understand what it's like to be sick. Brianna jumped in again, louder this time. Jake, you don't care about family, you're cold. Mom almost died and you're worried about money. There it was. The classic pivot. They steal, then accuse you of being materialistic for noticing. I'm not worried, I said. I'm documenting. They didn't like that word. You never see a room panic through a phone call, but I heard it. Papers rustling, whispering. Nadine's breathing got faster. Jake, Nadine snapped. Don't talk to me like I'm some stranger. I deserved help. We deserved help, after everything I've done for you. She's your mother, Brianna added, like she had just delivered a closing argument. Yeah, I said. Unfortunately for both of us. I ended the call. Blocked them. No speech, no emotion, no dragging it out. They earned the silence. Of course, people like them don't just accept consequences. They go recruiting. Within 48 hours, Marla somehow appointed herself spokesperson of the wounded. She started calling relatives, telling everyone I had changed since Tom passed. According to her, I had become aggressive and unbalanced, which is ironic coming from someone whose entire personality is gaslighting with a smile. I heard about her little tour from 3 different cousins before lunchtime, so I called her. She answered like she'd been expecting applause. "Jake, I've been so worried about you." "Cut it," I said. "You're spreading stories about me." A soft gasp. "What?" "No. People are just confused, and I tried to explain." "You said I was unstable." "I never said that," she replied quickly, the way liars turn sentences into reflexes. "Maybe someone misheard. 3 people misheard the exact same sentence?" She hesitated one blink too long. Then came the innocent act. "Honey, you're grieving. You're being sensitive." There it was. The textbook move. When cornered, accuse the other person of being emotional. I didn't give her more rope. "We're done, Marla." "Jake, wait." I hung up. Blocked her too. Next up was Kira, who never misses a chance to pour gasoline on a family fire. She texted me asking, "What's really happening?" pretending she cared. I told her the truth in one line. Nadine stole from the account. Brianna helped cover it. Simple. Factual. 5 minutes later, she screenshot my message and dumped it into the family group chat with the caption, "Jake has officially lost it. He's obsessed with money. This is disgusting." She even added a crying emoji for dramatic effect. She forgot I don't play phone tag. I blocked her before she finished typing her next sentence. No reaction, no explanation. Just a quiet removal, which pissed her off more than anything I could have said. Then came Aunt Yolanda, the self-appointed ethics officer of the family. She called me like she was summoning a child to the principal's office. "I heard what you did," she said. "You need to take responsibility. Your mother and sister are struggling. Money comes and goes, but family." "Yolanda," I said, "you've never seen a boundary you didn't want to violate." She sputtered. "Excuse me?" "You heard me." I hung up. Didn't give her a chance to reload. Finally, Phil arrived on schedule. Phil is the guy who loves giving balanced opinions despite never knowing the facts. He texted me with his usual tone-deaf wisdom. "Maybe your mom didn't mean to take the money. Grief makes people do strange things." "Sure. And gravity makes things fall." "Thanks, Professor." I responded with, "She bought thousands worth of handbags in Italy. If grief does that, the whole world's in trouble." Phil typed back a paragraph about communication and understanding both sides, but I didn't read it. Block. By the end of the week, it was like someone had shaken a snow globe full of idiots. They were everywhere, calling, messaging, whispering. The smear campaign was running at full speed, powered by the 2 people who had the most to lose if the truth got out. But none of it did what they wanted. There was no meltdown, no yelling, no dramatic counterattack, just clean exits. People think cutting off family is hard. It isn't. What's hard is pretending their behavior makes sense. Once you stop doing that, the rest is easy. I spent the next few days quietly organizing everything. Bank statements, withdrawal timestamps, Europe photos, fake medical bills. Every message they'd sent bragging about recovery, every lie, every revised lie. I didn't know exactly what the next move would be yet, but it wasn't going to involve talking to them anymore. Conversation time was over. Performance time was over. This was the part where things finally got interesting, and I was done playing nice. The week after I cut everyone off, I walked into a lawyer's office with a folder thick enough to choke a shredder. The receptionist gave me a polite smile, the kind people use when they're wondering what level of trouble you're carrying in that binder. The lawyer, mid-40s, sharp suit, sharper eyes, sat down across from me and asked what brought me in. I gave him the short version. Nadine took money from the account Tom set up for me, lied about having a cardiac emergency, used the funds to vacation through France, Spain, and Italy, faked medical paperwork. Then she and Brianna smeared me to the whole family when I didn't play along. He didn't flinch. "Show me what you have." So I slid everything across the table. Bank statements showing the withdrawals, screenshots of Brianna posing in front of landmarks instead of hospital rooms, the specialist paperwork with wrong codes, the Europe itinerary masquerading as a recovery plan, the family group chat where Brianna claimed I agreed to help, and the rumors Marla and Kira had been spreading about me being unstable. He skimmed without slowing down. "You have a strong case. This is fraud, conversion, unjust enrichment, breach of fiduciary duty under a custodial account, and depending on how far the lies went, defamation." Exactly what I expected. He explained the process. Before filing a lawsuit, he needed to send a demand letter. A final chance for Nadine and Brianna to act like human beings before the court got involved. I didn't care either way, but protocol is protocol. The letter went out the next morning. It required them to return the money, correct their lies, and stop using my name for their victim act. It took a week for them to pretend they hadn't seen it. Then Brianna broke the silence, sending a paragraph that had the energy of someone trying to sound mature while crying over a keyboard. She claimed she used the money responsibly and that I was punishing her for taking care of Nadine. She tried to make it my fault that she chose Europe instead of a clinic. Nadine followed it with a message that read like she'd swallowed a thesaurus of guilt. According to her, I owed her support because that's what sons do. And apparently her trip to Italy counted as emotional recovery. Neither message included the phrase, "I'll return the money." I forwarded both to my lawyer. His response was short. We file. The lawsuit included everything it needed to. Fraud for faking the medical emergency. Conversion for dipping into an account she had no right to touch without consent. Unjust enrichment for the trip. And defamation for the lies they spread to cover themselves. Court took a few months to schedule. When the day came, Nadine walked in wearing a soft blue sweater and clutching tissues like awards. Brianna looked like she spent 3 hours trying to pick an outfit that said, victim, but still fashionable. Their lawyer looked tired before we even started. My lawyer presented the timeline cleanly. The withdrawals, the forged medical documents, the flights to France dated the exact same day Nadine claimed she was undergoing diagnostic testing. Brianna's social media posts, the group chat lies, Marla's gossip trail, Kira's dramatic screenshot stunt. The judge didn't interrupt once. Then Nadine took the stand and delivered the performance of her life. She claimed she thought she had permission to use the money, claimed she was confused after Tom's death, said the trip overseas was for her health because stress affects the heart. The judge asked her why she needed designer handbags for heart recovery. She said, comfort items reduce anxiety. Even her lawyer winced. Brianna tried to help by saying she remembered me giving verbal approval. The judge asked her when and where. She changed the answer 3 times in 30 seconds, then said she was too emotional to recall. The judge told her that wasn't going to work. By the end, Nadine and Brianna weren't defending themselves. They were improvising, and badly. Every excuse contradicted the last. Every answer dug them deeper. Every attempt at sympathy collapsed under the weight of the evidence. The ruling wasn't dramatic. The judge didn't even raise her voice. In our state, the judge simply laid out what they owed. The full $35,000 and the additional smaller withdrawal statutory penalties for the unauthorized withdrawals, reimbursement of my legal fees, damages for defamation, and a written retraction of the lies they spread. Nadine made a noise like someone had stepped on her. Brianna looked like she expected someone to jump out of the corner and announce it was all a prank. But no one came. After court, they both went straight to social media to beg strangers for sympathy. Brianna wrote something like, "Family betrayed me when I needed them most." Nadine posted vague quotes about sons who forget where they came from. None of them said, "We stole money," which was the only honest sentence they could have written. Extended family didn't take it well either. Half decided to stay out of it while still passing around every screenshot. The other half quietly admitted they weren't surprised. Funny how everyone finds their voice once the truth is public record. I didn't argue with any of them. I didn't defend myself. I didn't make announcements. I went to the bank, had the account retitled to me under the judgment, closed it for good, and moved the remaining funds to an account Nadine will never touch again. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about finally shutting the door they kept forcing open. Standing outside the bank, I realized something simple. Nadine never saw me as a son. Not once. I was a resource she felt entitled to. Brianna wasn't raised to be independent. She was raised to expect tribute. And Tom, he was the only person in that house who treated me like a person, not a tool. A few months after the judgment, life got quiet again. Real quiet. Not the kind that comes before another disaster. I went back to my routines. Work, fixing up properties, dinners with friends who don't speak in guilt trips, and days that don't start with someone else's crisis. Lily joked that I should frame the court order like a diploma. I didn't. I just keep it in a drawer with the rest of the documents. Proof that I finally stopped letting people rewrite my role in their story. Every once in a while, someone from the extended family asks if I'll ever reconnect. I tell them the same thing every time. I'm good, because I am. Tom taught me how to build things. Turns out one of those things was a life that doesn't collapse the moment someone else starts lying. And that's the life I'm keeping. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.